Okay, welcome back. We took a little break, but I'm back, and I guess we can consider this to be a part two. Uh, so I am your host, Boricua Angie, and you are listening to Thoughts of a Light Woman. I have Steve with me here. I lost my other friend. I don't know if he'll be coming back, if we can get him back before the show's over, but let's see. Fingers crossed. So I know we were talking about our stories of, dating and how it's been, from like back
Hmm.
then and now. You did make some good points. We were talking about like expectations of what we're looking for and things like that. But like what you said, and then you're not always gonna get everything that's on the list or whatever you're expecting, but you know, so so one of the main things, and I guess I want to say because my friend made a good point, I was like, I'm not a relationship expert.
Hmm.
People can ask me for advice. I can, tell them the best that I can. It's not, or if I can, I'd rather not say nothing at all and be like, look, I can't help you. Because I'd rather just leave it at that, but yes, I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not any of that. I just feel like I've been, just sharing my stories, my personal experience of things that I've been through, and maybe it can help somebody else, or
Hmm.
just, so now where I wanted to take this to was because now an important thing when it comes to the dating, and especially when you're dating, it's about the whole like looking for like the red flags and the signs of what I was talking about, like, people being toxic, or if you're toxic in the relationship or in the situation. So
Hmm.
like trying to look for things like that because I feel I think, and my friend made a good example of like, I guess trying to say like, when you're in the situation at the moment, it's like you're not really seeing things at that moment that you feel that it's like this is not right, but you're just kind of like, just like kind of doing one of those things where it's like, this it's you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is okay. And then later on when you actually sit down and like what we're doing now and you start talking to someone, you're just like, oh yeah, there was a whole bunch of flags. And I was just like, and I'm over here taking things as, oh, that's it's nothing, but it actually was something. Because definitely, I think a good example would be, right. It was like with my son's father, and that was another reason why I had to end the relationship or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
because just doing little things here and there where I notice is like, at first I didn't catch on, but then eventually at time after time I learned, because what he was doing, he was trying to test me. He was trying to see if like, if I give her a little smack, what is she going to do to me? What is she going to say back? Now if she doesn't say anything, now that means I'm going to keep doing other stuff and taking it more up. So me, I've come a long way because this was like years ago, but I've come a long way. It was
Hmm.
kind of like I knew what was going on. I wasn't really trying to tolerate the situation. That's why I didn't want to be with him, because
Hmm.
again, he was a liar. He was a compulsive liar, like a habitual liar. So many words. Uh he he was such a liar, because that was the issue. He was such a liar, such a bad liar. I was like, oh my
Hmm.
god, it was like a nightmare. And then the fact that I ended up having a child, and it was just like I love my child, but
Right.
it was horrible. And it's one
Sure.
of those things.
Sure.
Like, I make jokes, be like, if I could be one of those people to be like what birth control is, or I could be the birth control,
Hmm.
because again, you have to be cautious of, especially in this, whether dating, because everything starts from somewhere. So
Hmm.
when you're dating, talking to someone, you really do have to get to know someone, and that's something important about stuff like that too. You really have to get to know someone. And I don't know if I saw it somewhere where it says something about a person a person can only pretend for so long.
Mm-hmm.
when it shows you are. So
Well,
that's something that I've been, like watching and more like listening, because I've been telling my friends that I've been listening more to when whether people, guys are talking to me. I've been trying to listen more because it's
mm-hmm.
like, sometimes people will tell on themselves. They will tell you, and you're already sitting there like, I don't know. I'm already
Right.
hearing something there that I'm not liking, you
Right,
know?
right. You're getting your
So,
that spidey sense. Well, what I was going to say was, in dating, and this is for anyone who's dating. Remember, you're meeting the representative. You're not meeting the real person first. You're meeting the representative. You're meeting the person that's before you with, whatever. And like you said, you don't really get to know the real person until further into the dating process or asking some really key questions. Um,
right.
and when you do that, and this is for both sides, right? And again, I'm not trying to make this sound bad, but I wish women would listen to their intuition more about when it comes to dating or anything that has to do with their well-being or their safety. And the reason why I
Right.
say that is because that's why they call it women's intuition. There's a reason why it's called women's intuition. Women's intuition is that ability to foresee or have a feeling of something that's imminent, that is not so right. And I think if women listen to that more, I think that they would not put themselves in situations that they can't get out of. I think that they won't be, you know, physically harmed. I think it would open their eyes to certain things that are happening. Um, and I think, excuse me, they can make better choices as far as how to handle a certain date. For example, the t- let's say you're out on a date and you're having a conversation with this person, and all this person is doing is giving you direct eye contact, right? Which is good. That's one of the do's, if you want to talk about do's and don'ts of dating. Direct eye contact. Look at them in their eyes. They always say the eyes is the gateway to the soul, right? So look at their eyes, look at their facial expression, look at their smile, look at everything, right? And just watch them. And what I would normally do is whenever a person is talking, I would say, really? Well, tell me a little bit more about why you said that, as opposed to, oh, yeah, that's nice. That's cool. So, me and my boys, whatever. That's a red flag, the way that I just responded just now, because that's showing you that this person has no regard for your input or your perspective on things. Yeah, that's nice, but, or, whatever, they change the subject. But if you have a person that's really like digging you and like, really, that's so interesting. I never thought of it that way. What made you come to that conclusion? Asking those back and forth questions. Now we're communicating. Now we're having a conversation. That should tell you a little bit about that type of person, that person is willing to take the time out to A, get to know you, B, not afraid to communicate, and C, is genuinely interested in you as a person enough to ask follow-up questions. See what I'm saying? So those are some things that are very important when it comes to, dating and not just dismissing a person.
Right. No, that's all very important. I'm I keep listening because every time I'm talking, I'm like, like it sounds like a growling sound, but that's me talking. Hold on. Let's see if I lower this a little bit. I think a little bit better for now.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah. So because I know I had sent questions earlier today, and I'm actually looking
Mm-hmm.
at them now. Because I know we're talking about a few things now. I know we're talking about like looking for like the red flags, the whole toxic thing. And I'm looking at one here. It's like, it says, what are some signs that someone may not be over their ex? I was looking at that one, and it's funny because this brought back like a flashback,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a guy that I was talking to. So anytime in the conversation, he would talk about his ex. He would say my ex, and then her about her parents, and then one time when we went out somewhere, he brought up the ex again, saying that, oh, the sign that you see here, her ex made that. So when we came here, she felt some type of way because she knows that he was the one who did the sign. And every time remember we are talking about like the listening part, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, am I going to hear about the ex all the time? Now, what if I was to do the same thing? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what
Right.
if I was to do the same thing and talk about my ex, or just talk
Well,
about things like,
right. And and that's very important too, because, so that can go two ways. One, it could be the person could be doing that intentionally and not really think about what the outcome is. But I'm going to take the latter one, which is some people do it unintentionally and don't realize that they're doing it. So here's how I respond to someone. I said, well, it sounds like you and your ex had a lot of, very good times, or maybe not so good times, experiences. I said, I noticed you talk about the person a lot. Is the person still in your life? Do you still communicate with that person? What kind of relationship do you have with that person? Whatever. Because now you're forcing that person to tell how they really feel about that person or not feel about that person. If they go on, they talk about, well, we still communicate and da da da, da whatever, and so forth and so on. I'm like, really? Okay. So to me, it sounds like, and I could be very wrong, and this is how I'm approaching, this situation. This is how I would actually say this on a date. Well, it sounds like to me that there are some, things that are kind of left unattended between yourself and your ex. And my fear is that there's no room or availability for us to get to know each other because your ex is occupying that space. And
that?
I would hate for us to continue on a relationship like this, knowing that your ex occupies a certain amount of your bandwidth. And I don't think that would be fair to you, because maybe there's some things that you want to explore with your ex. And it wouldn't be fair to me because you're not giving me the proper unmolested foundation to build a relationship with you. See what I'm saying? That's how I handle something like that.
That's a good point. And for anybody who's listening, who's watching, like, that's a good way, because sometimes you know how people are always thinking like, how can I tell someone something without,
Mm-hmm.
like, how can I make conversation? And that what you said is a good example. If that would ever to come up, that
Mm-hmm.
someone is talking to someone and all they do is talk about their ex, and maybe it's a good thing to bring up, because again, maybe it'll be something that it'll be like, you know what, like, yeah, this is not gonna work, or because now at least you can hear and you have that choice of, okay, I think I'm gonna move on because this doesn't look like it's gonna go anywhere, especially if they're talking about the person all the time. It's
Right.
like you're not over, you know what I mean? That's how it comes off. It's like you're not over this person.
Sure.
So um but it's a good point. I'm gonna say it again. I'm not a relationship expert. I'm
I'm
not at
not
all.
neither, but I've been through some
Yeah.
things.
uh I'm just here, just sharing my stories, my experiences, things that I've heard, seen, and it's just again, and so let me make sure, as because I know we're talking, so I want to like look at some of the questions, because I was trying to look into other questions besides like what, when you're thinking about dating, what to ask, but also like that dark side, that side of dating, that it is always, there's, you know what I mean, it's not
Mm-hmm.
always the good part of it, the part that you have to be cautious and you have to look out for, because like I said, I know we talked about the red flags, the ex. um so something that I wrote down was,
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about this with my friends, and my friends and I have done it, and it's a good thing because I want to talk about it because I remember one time, and I mentioned it to my friend. I was like, I remember I was looking on IG and on the Pix 11, and it was saying about a woman who was missing because she came to New York to meet someone that she was talking to online.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that people kind of knew where she was going, but not exactly like where, like, what part of the Bronx or the building or what's the guy's name in a picture. So
Right.
those are the type of things that, like I'm gonna say, I'm not a professional, but because of so many things that happen, is something to think about because I'm
Sure.
guilty of that. I have thrown myself out there like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
At times, I would even tell it. I mean, if my friends are watching, I would let them know if I'm going on a date or doing something. Other times I wouldn't. I would just throw myself out there, not even thinking like, it's like, man, I should have let somebody know where I was going, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like at times I'm guilty of that. I wouldn't do it. So you never know. Anything could have happened to me
Sure.
because I didn't tell somebody where I was going, if we were going out to eat or something, and where exactly. Sharing the person of the picture so that they know. Um, Either sharing location, um, taking a picture of the license plate if they have a car,
Mm-hmm.
because these things might not seem like, because again, we kind of, I know my friend was telling me, like, we kind of get distracted, or because we're having so much fun
Mm-hmm.
that we forget to kind of go through that. But I've had moments where I'm just like, I've had moments where I was like, I felt comfortable enough that in my head I was just like, again, I'm crazy. I was like, okay, girl, everything seems to be going good. I do have things in my bag that I carry, but everything's
Mm-hmm.
going good. So I'm thinking, okay, I have nothing to worry about, because you know about that little gut instinct that you gotta
Yep.
like gotta go with it and trust it.
Yes. Yes,
Sometimes I wouldn't
indeed.
have, but other times I have had it, because here's a story about a situation like that. And another thing I just forgot, you have to make sure that you have money on you, or money on your card, in case you go somewhere and now this person either doesn't want to drive you back or something. You have to make sure that you know a way to get back home, or hopefully you have a reliable friend, somebody that could pick you up. So one of my stories about a situation like that was, I was talking to someone online, and again, instead of going with my judgment, I still ended up going to Jersey, because the picture that I saw of the guy, and no, I saw the picture, but there was something about the guy when he spoke and his accent. And instead of just being on some like, no, I'm not gonna do this, again, crazy me, I still went to go meet this person in
Mm-hmm.
Jersey,
Mm.
from New York, from Brooklyn. I went to Jersey.
Exactly.
And at one point, it wasn't even like, I wasn't like scared, like to the point thinking, oh my God, maybe this man could kill me or something. But it was more of, how the hell am I going to get out of here? What do I need to say that I need to go? Because what I saw was that it was already getting late and it was getting dark.
Yep.
I didn't have any money to get back, because he was the one who picked me up. Like I had the money,
Mm.
whatever, at least to travel on the train, but
Right.
not to the point of like, let me get an Uber or Lyft. I didn't, no, I didn't have that.
Right.
So he was trying to get me, he was trying to get me to like lay down and relax. And I was just kind of like on some, like, at first I think I must have told him no. And then he wasn't really trying anything funny. So I was like, thank God for that, because I was like, ain't nothing gonna happen. And it was again the biggest mistake, because I went to his place again. Here I am in Jersey. Then I go to his place. I eventually had to say, because I think I actually was getting a headache. Like I was like, I'm getting a headache, and I'm ready to go. Luckily, he took me and he dropped me off. Once I got on the train, I was like, I can't do this crazy stuff no more. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't do this type of stuff because that was scary. After that, I never spoke to him again. And
Yeah.
then I was just like, I'm never traveling that far like that
Right.
ever again. That was
Well,
one definite
ever.
thing that I said to myself, but I was just like, no.
Right. Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's very important. I always say, a couple of things. One, um you're right. When it comes to dating, we get so caught up in the fanfare of it and the romanticism of it, that we kind of forget about other things that we need to really excuse me, think about. And one of the things, is safety. Safety is very important. I would have said maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, especially for women should always think about their safety because they don't know who they're going to meet up with. You don't know what kind of situation is going to go down, whatever, it should be safety. Today, I could say both for men and women, and I'll share a quick story with you. This is a story that I read, and I don't know how true this was, but there was and I think this happened within the last year or so. There was this man and woman, young couple. They were, I guess it was an online date. The man went to go meet the woman, whatever. They had, dinner or whatever. She invited him back to her apartment, you know, um, sat down, got in, had a couple of drinks or whatever. Um, and the next thing he knows, he wakes up and he's like handcuffed to a bed or something. And she literally kidnapped this dude and was like taking a knife and like cutting him like every hour, or
Oh
whatever.
my
And I'm not trying to scare
God.
people, your audience, or whatever, but and without going further into the story, the man actually escaped, and he was found, he was treated, whatever. But the reason why I say that too is because it goes both ways now. It's not just about women. Men have to be very careful, about who they meet or whomever. My mom, who passed away, God rest her soul. When I was growing up, she told me the same thing too. She's like, always have. She called it mad money. Always have mad money on you because you never know where you're going to be. And if you need some money to get back to where you need to have, you need to get back to, have that mad money. We didn't have ATM cards back then, but just take some
Right.
money, open up, put in your shoe, mad money, right? So that's the first thing. My mother said also, whenever you go out to a bar, right, never leave your drink unattended. Put a napkin on it and poke a straw through it or whatever. Leave it a certain way if you have to, but if you come back and it's not like the way you left it, that's a no go. So, I say that to say, for anyone who's listening, men, women, whatever, please be careful dating. I like the idea that you let people know when you went out on a date who you were with, where you were going, things of that nature. And I would say let more than one person know, just as a backup, because God forbid if anything should happen to you, whatever, you will want those people who are really close to you to know where you are and how to find you and things like that. So yeah, safety is important. What I will say for the women though is please, again, I can't stress this enough. Like I said earlier, please use your women's intuition. If you're in a situation and the hairs on the back of your neck are starting to stand up or you're getting a funny feeling about something, please listen to it. It's the way that you're built, it's a defense mechanism for you. It's telling you that there's something wrong. Listen to it, do whatever you need to do to get out of there. I would rather people cut a date short than to be missing or something to happen to them, because your life is it's precious, it's valuable. You only get one life. I wouldn't risk it on just going out on a date just because, this guy talked nice or he looked nice or he tried something or he didn't try something. If those hairs on the back of your neck stand up or you're getting a funny feeling, bounce. Trust me, it will, it could potentially save your life.
Right. Those are let me mute you for a minute. Is it? Oh, I don't know if it's giving like what do you call it? Like the feedback. I don't know why it's doing that because I hear myself. um, what I was gonna say, because yeah, all of that what we've been saying, those are like really good points. Because that's why I've noticed that some of these dating sites do give like like little advice or things what to do. Even my own friends too, and it makes kind of sense because they were like, okay, when you're talking to someone, you know don't wait too long, right? Don't wait too long to go on a date with someone. Don't let it linger. I can actually vouch for that for talking to someone and letting it go on so long. I felt like whatever was supposed to happen didn't, and we ended up becoming friends. And I hope it's my other friend that's not watching is not this is not the situation. This is from before. um and I felt like I don't know if he needed someone to talk to. That's how I felt. So I felt like I became more of his pen pal because I was just kind of like, because the whole thing was he said he had an injury, something about he sprained. I think he said he sprained his ankle, right? And it was like, okay, I didn't have a problem with that. I'm not gonna be mean and be like, I need you to limp your way to meeting me somewhere. You know what I mean? So I just kind of was like respecting that and understanding. But then it just went on too long. And it was just like, I was like, oh no, I think we just became pen pals because this is not really. I was like, I don't really think I'm ever gonna see this person. I don't think it's not gonna happen. I knew about the cat. I knew about the cat that he had, but that was just basically it. I don't think we were gonna end up seeing each other. So it's things like that about when you're dating. What else we talked about that my friends be bringing up because it's funny. That was one of them. I wonder if I missed anything else. I'm trying to figure out with this whole with this whole dating scene. I'm like, what other important things I've left out? Because again, I feel like the dating sites will only tell you only so much of what to do of when you're on there, or it'll say things like don't share anything personal, something to be saying. But I'm like, we still do things, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
eventually we still exchange numbers and we're still having a conversation outside of that. So it just kind of sucks because again, you don't know of the crazy people that are out there because oh my gosh, perfect example. Every time I keep talking, it's a new thing comes up.
Yeah, spill
So
it.
an example of crazy was I went on a date, met the guy, but the issue is that it was kind of late. Here we go again. Myself, I should know better. For anybody out there who's listening, these are the type of things to avoid. Now, meeting someone late is also it's not a good idea either because now I feel like well, it all depends because I'm talking about like evening, but if it's like really, really late, then it's just like, yeah, that's not going on a date. That's nowhere definition of a date. I feel like that's more of a booty call, or they're trying to see what's gonna happen when you meet up with this person at this time. But I'm trying to remember what time I met up with that person. I think it was before midnight. It was either before midnight or something like that. And at first he was like, let's go play pool. But then he said, oh, that the place is already closing. I didn't even bother to ask the name so I could Google because knowing me, I would have Googled to see if it's closing or not.
Right.
Again, if it was one of those things, let me say that so then we could go and do something else because I'm letting her know that it's closing.
Sure.
So we ended up going to this like a little bar in downtown Brooklyn, and conversation was going good. And again, I'm hearing certain things, and first of all, it's like I don't know what's happening with my little detector, my little radar detector, because he was talking, and I guess it's more of like when you're still having a conversation with someone, so it was like a regular conversation, and he started talking about women like stalking him, and the same thing too about the calling. And then I think he said one woman, I don't know if she knew where he lived or something like that, and he said he basically had told her to leave him alone because if not, he was gonna get one of his female sisters, family member, to to f her up
Mm.
because she wasn't understanding, to leave him alone.
Right.
Fine. Time comes, we ended up hanging out. I might as well just be honest because I feel like when you're telling these stories and there's just, people need to know because these things do happen. We ended up going to a hotel. Again, all not the right things to do.
Mm-hmm.
um, we ended up going to a hotel and we then leave the next day in the morning. I said my goodbyes. He was on some like, he doesn't live too far, like maybe somewhere like 2 blocks um from where the motel was at. And he kept talking about how he wanted to come over to my place. But the thing was, he wanted to come over to my place at nighttime when everybody's either sleeping. And I was just over here like, what he was saying to me was just not clicking because he said something about his place was being fixed. And I was like, oh, I don't know how many people have used that line and if it's true or not, and
Mm-hmm.
what are we talking about what's being fixed. But he says something about his place was being fixed, so that's why he didn't want anybody over.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm glad I did not invite him over because that would have been a horrible situation. Because what happened after that was he thought he was going to come over on the weekday at nighttime. And so what I did was when he said that, I had to let him know, like, look, I'm not having anybody come over here. I in my head, I was like, I already knew I made a mistake, but it's like still. I was like, I don't want to be doing this like nighttime meeting up stuff because it just doesn't sound right. I'm not saying that some situations that when you sleep with someone, it doesn't turn into something more because it possibly can. Because I know people out there, that it's happening and it can become more. But for some people, it doesn't go that way. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't become more. It stays where it's at. Like
Right.
it's,
It doesn't
you know what I mean?
progress.
Like, well, yeah. And I was just like, no. I had to tell him like, yeah, I'm not having nobody come here. I'm not coming to. You're not coming to see me at night. Like, yeah, you're not coming into my
Right.
place. I'm glad that yes, I stuck with it and I said what it means because next thing you know, what happened after I blocked him and I said what I said. He's calling me during
Wow.
the end of the week. During the end of the week, he's calling me, and I didn't even know who it was because there was no name attached to it. So here I am the next day in the morning, and I text the person. I was like, who's this? Because I was like, I noticed you called twice, so I wanted to see if it was an actual person. Then he's talking to me, not even telling me who he is, and he's trying to have a conversation like nothing. And again, there's no name attached because I don't even know who it is.
Right.
Um, and then I had to ask again. I was like, "Are you gonna tell me who you are? Because if not, I'm gonna block you." And then he finally told me who he was. He was like, "Remember, we hung out. We were at the motel." And once he said that, I was already like, "I already know who this is. I
Right.
know
Right.
who this is. Like this was just recent." But it was crazy because he said that he ended up getting a new number. But I'm like, what happened from that day into the end of the week that you had to get a new number? So I'm
Right.
looking, can I say that he was really, or was he just using another number and then he just wants to see what happened? It's like, why would you want to use another number to reach out to me if you noticed that I blocked you and you probably were calling and it
Mm-hmm.
kept going straight to voicemail? What does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, that sounds like the beginnings or the potentials of stalking 101, right? And that's definitely not what you want to have when you're dating someone or trying to establish a relationship. And, again, like I said earlier, talking to my, women friends, and talk about dating and stuff, I said, well, if if you generally find a person that you like that you want to go on a date with, and this is again not rules but expectations for me, the first date is going to be a coffee date, or some sort of, it could be, early in the morning before you go to work, or it could be on a weekend, meet at some place where it's during the day, it's public, you're sitting there, you're having coffee, you're talking, you're getting to know a person. And this way it's on mutual ground,
Right.
and it's during the day, and there's a lot of people around. And I know for a lot of people that may sound a little cheesy, or it may sound a little corny, but a couple of things are happening. First off, you're ensuring your safety somewhat because it's during the middle of the day, it's in a public place, you're sharing a coffee, whatever, you're talking, and you're getting to know the person. During a date, what hopefully should happen is you should have gotten a vibe from that person that now you may want to consider a level 2 date, which is now maybe, going out for lunch or for early dinner or something like that. And again, keeping it short, keeping it sweet, keeping it light, whatever. And hopefully you establish even a more connection, with that. Again, someplace public where, whatever. I always say that, until you're 100% sure, damn near close to 100% sure, then you can start inviting people, you start inviting each other over to, each other's houses. Or where they're staying or what have you. But there has to be a protocol of some sort where you need to establish with that person in public places, in non-threatening areas, where you can make a judgment call on whether or not this is a type of person that I would want to be able to have that type of date where I come over or you come over, or whatever. Now, the other thing too is, and this is another, for all the guys that are listening out there, and if you're really into a young lady, and you genuinely care about this person enough that you will want to progress, the first thing I would say to the young lady is, look, this is our first date or our second date or whatever. um, I'm going to ask something very unusual. Do you mind if I ask you this question? Have you told someone where you were, and did you send them a picture of me and tell them? Because for me, I would feel more comfortable that someone knows where you are. What have I done when I ask that? I have sparked the woman's interest because now she knows she's with a person who generally cares about her well-being and her safety. That
Mm-hmm.
tells you, again, almost everything you need to know about that type of person, right? I generally care. I hope that you let someone know where you are. Whatever. I'm not saying that I'm a bad guy or whatever, but I just I know dating is tough, out there, and we meet all kinds of people. I'm just hoping that you are, someone knows your whereabouts. Is that okay for me to ask you? And then you could say, if the woman says, well, no, I said, well, can you do me a favor? Can you text one of your friends or someone to let them know where you are? Because I and I can say this because for me it's genuine. I have two daughters. I would want them to do the same thing too if they're out on a date. I would want them to know, or to have the ability to go out somewhere and feel that they're safe, or that someone knows where they are. So I guess if a woman is hearing that, that should hopefully tell you that this person, I don't know this person from Adam, but this person cares enough that he's genuinely interested in my well-being and my safety. So that should help a lot with that. And again, I know it sounds corny, and I know it probably sounds non-romantic, but I think, and you tell me, if someone said that to you on a date, how would you react? Let me reverse that. How would you feel if someone said that to you?
I think that I would have been shocked, and I would be like, it's something different. I was like, you know what? It's what do you call it? Like a reassuring, and just making it, so that
Right.
somebody knows that he's okay, and then I'm making sure the same thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and that's a good point because, hmm, you brought a good up, you brought up a good thing that I feel like now I'm gonna have to ask about that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. Like, did you ever send a picture of me to anybody? Like any information, details, you know what I mean? Details of me, because that's a good point. Because
Right.
like as a woman, um, like what I was just saying, like we'll do that. Like, and it's funny because it's always for us women that we're being told, like, you know, these are the things, because it does make sense again, you know, to be cautious. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never really heard about men, when it comes to them, about like, you know, make sure you let somebody know where you're going, send a
Mm-hmm.
picture of this person, because men also go through things too. I've heard stories
Sure.
about where women will say, "Hey, meet me here," and then next thing you know, they're getting jumped because two dudes just come out of nowhere and either want to
Mm-hmm.
rob them or do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really just for us women just to be cautious, it's for the men as well, things that they gotta
Yep.
like really, like, you know, pay attention to, and you know. So yeah, but that's a good one. I'm gonna have to ask that now.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's a good one. You see how I would have never thought about that, like to ask
Oh,
someone like, hey,
absolutely.
you
And I got to
send a
tell you,
picture.
for the person who asked that, and believe it or not, they will even feel a level of comfortability knowing that, now I can, not worry about this person who's sitting across from me, who's a stranger, looking at me, wondering if I'm gonna like do something to that person. You know what I mean? Like, I feel more relaxed knowing that the person that's sitting across from me, someone knows where where they're at, their well-being. Um, and so, that's just one less thing, I can kind of let go, and just have just safety.
Yeah, that's always very important.
Yep.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. I don't know why it keeps picking up sound. We were doing so good. I don't know why it's doing that, but it's important. Like I said, I'm guilty of it. Uh but I feel like from back then to now, I feel like I've done much better when it comes to these things of, like, you know, being prepared and just doing things again, because my friends were always talking and they're always bringing up good points. And again, like I said, one of my friends, she would share when she was going out somewhere, and we can see exactly where she was going. So even things like that, that's just kind of like, again, it's important because, like I said, oh my goodness, this world that we live in, it's just so different. I'm not saying, you know, crime, all that stuff, murder, you know, of course it's always been there, but I think now with technology and all this stuff, like, you know, if anybody who has like shows like this, podcasts or whatever, that, you know, they're putting information out there of how to protect yourself, what to look out for. It's more out there than before, than people actually talking about it. Because I feel like I noticed another thing. I feel like people wouldn't talk a lot about certain subjects, and they would just, like, you know, like it was just something that people just didn't want to bring up. That's why me, and like I said, I've been the opposite. Like I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of things that we should be talking about, because I know there's definitely another topic I definitely want to get into, um about like people, family members, or just family, between people and family members, protecting like a predator, an abuser, you know. That's definitely one of my next topics. But like I said, there's a lot of things that we definitely should talk about, because I'm thinking with this generation now too, especially the young ones, everybody expressing their feelings, wanting to tell people how they feel. We should be at that level to do that for a lot of other things, and not just for, you know, silly, dumb little things, but for everything, that we should be able to talk about stuff, and being open about it. Because come on,
Sure.
all that's important, but
Well, the thing for that too is there are some topics that people may genuinely feel uncomfortable about, not because they're trying to hide it from you, but it could be something that they're kind of currently dealing with themselves, and they may not know you well enough to want to share that with you. And so if you find that you're on a topic or excuse me, about to ask a question that may look uncomfortable for a person, I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, pry or intrude. Is this topic sensitive, or if this question is, sensitive to you, do care not to talk about it? And if the person says, yeah, I'm not really ready to share that, then you have to kind of almost respect their space and say, my apologies. I didn't mean to, pry, or, I was unaware that, there was an issue there. So as you were talking, I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you want to kind of do this with me online, but maybe we can do a simulated date, you and I. Like we're sitting on it, we're at a coffee shop, and we're out on a date, just so you can hear some of the dialogue of certain things of how a day should go. So I would say, um, Angie, it's so nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I am very well. Thank you for asking. You have such a beautiful name. Where does it come from?
From my grandmother, because her name was Angelita, so my mom decided to name me Angela.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. It sounds like that you're really close. You have come from a tight knit family. Is that a good assumption?
Yes.
Awesome, outstanding. And so, how the relationship with your family and things like that. Tell me a little bit about you that I may have not seen on your profile.
You said that you haven't seen on my profile?
Right. So my question to you, if I was out on a date with you, would be: so tell me a little bit something about you that's not on your profile, and you don't have to answer that, but I just wanted you to hear that question so that this way, I don't want you to tell me that something that I've already read. I want to hear something a little bit more in depth.
No, I get
Right.
that. Trust me, I know all about that. No, I've had
Right.
those
Okay.
questions before. So it would be so something that I don't have on my page would be I have like a small business. Um, I'm in a band. So that's the type of stuff that I do like on my own personal time.
You're in a band. That's awesome. Do you sing? Do you play an instrument?
Yes, I'm actually I do vocals. So yeah.
Wow. Have you done something that I may have heard?
No. What do you call that? Oh, I can't even remember right now. I guess what do you call it? Like we do like the cover songs, so it's
Oh,
nothing's
cover
really like
songs.
original. Yeah, and nothing's really
Oh,
original. Yeah.
cool, cool. It sounds like it's something that you enjoy, and I'm pretty sure you have a very beautiful voice. Maybe sometime, if we get a little bit more comfortable with each other, perhaps maybe I can come and hear you sing sometime. Would that be okay with you? Would that be cool with you?
That would be fun. I would like that.
Awesome, outstanding. So in that interaction, in that dialogue, like if I'm generally interested in you, I'm going to ask you questions that I'm really trying to get to know you. Notice I didn't ask what you did. I didn't ask how much money you made. I didn't ask where you lived. I asked you personal questions that will help me or give me clues about you. Because, like, for example, the reason why I asked you about your name and where did it come from, I had an idea it came from a family. There's a family lineage there. To me, that tells me that you're into family. This is a type of person that makes that check box on my list. I'm looking for a woman that's into family. I'm looking for a woman who has, lineage in their family. I'm looking for, that. What are the personal interests? Music. I'm a big, huge music buff. So that's why I went to the music. Oh, I used to play instrument as well. I don't sing, but, and I'm always into music, and music is something that I guess a lot of people like. So I try to ask those type of questions where I'm getting to know you of substance and not superficial. And I also want to ask you questions like this is a question that I always would try to ask. So, if you don't mind me being forward, I'm thinking to myself, a year from now, I'm hoping that we're sitting in the same exact spot and that we're together. What kind of things will we be talking about a year from now? Because now what I've done is, I see that look. What I've done now is I've provoked your thought process to say, okay, he's thinking long term that we're going to be together a year from now, and that it's going to be our anniversary, and that he has plans for me, right? And what kind of things we should be talking about looking forward in our future. See, these are the type of questions when we date we have to ask, because this is how we cut through a lot of the BS, and we get to a point where we get to generally know or want to know or have future plans for a person that we intend to be with. See what I'm saying?
Okay, so two things. So when let me mute you for now because I don't know why it keeps doing that. So two things. So those the questions that was good. So the last one that you just asked, it was kind of like I guess I made the face because I'm like, a year from now. So like it's good to be like, what do you call it, like optimistic or like, like put out that positive, of like, hey, this is gonna happen, this is gonna be my lady. But then at the same time, it's kind of like I would be on some like, I don't know, like what will happen from today to tomorrow. So that's why I'm kind of like, can I really talk about the future? You know what I mean? And especially being that it's like the first date, like I wouldn't be able to answer that unless, maybe we went on a few dates or something else is happening that then maybe once me getting to know you a little bit better, then I can probably answer that question. Now it could be a different look and a different response because, it's like, I've been with this guy already like on 5 or 6 dates. And you know what? He seems great. He's amazing. I love how he is. He's independent. He knows how to cook or, he's into this, he's into that. You know what I mean? Like, things you're getting to know about a person so that you could be like, is this somebody who you want to be with? And that that you could be like, you know what, I do see myself with this person, hopefully like a year from now. You know what I mean? And then the other thing I was going to say, anybody who's watching as well, so just because I know he said we were giving like an example of like pretending like we were on a date and the questions to ask, but also for make sure that the lady or whoever also has to ask questions too, that it's not just a one-sided thing, because even though he was asking me questions and I was answering, I didn't really ask anything back. But also one thing that one can do is that whatever questions he's asking, you can also ask, so what about you, where did you get your name, and so what do you do, like because I seen your profile, like is there other things that you may do like on your personal time, like kind of give it back to the person so they can also answer the question, because like I said, I've been guilty of that. Like I feel like I guess I've been put in situations where I was talking about earlier where I don't mind answering certain questions, but certain things can still be triggering for me. So it sucks that when people don't understand and you're not at that place of like you really wanting to explain yourself to someone about like why you might seem quiet or you're kind of hesitant to answer. So it just kind of sucks because I mean I know some people don't for reasons, and others are probably like myself because like I said, certain things can be triggering. But I feel like maybe I would have to learn how to maybe learn how to answer that differently when somebody does ask. I need to probably be a little bit more open about that too, so that it won't come off as like, you know what, she doesn't seem like she wants to say much or she's hiding something, and it's not even like that. Because some people will start to think things like that. So yeah, it's all important good things to know about when dating and getting to know someone, because good examples just to know, you never know, it could happen.
Never know.
So anything else, I guess, because I feel like we actually covered some stuff. But like
We
I
covered a
said, I
lot of
do
stuff.
plan. I do
Yeah,
plan on still having at least maybe another episode because I know that I have some stories that I
sure.
still want to talk about. Um, but I feel like we've covered this, especially like what I said. What I really wanted to talk about is when you're dating, because like I said, I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of it. And I feel like these things should become a habit.
Hmm.
And again, like people should be talking about it. People should be able to have a conversation like, hey, if you go somewhere, hey, just let me know, share, anything that you can. I'm not saying like social security number, parents, or any extra stuff, but the simple
No,
things. Because
sure.
again, you're just starting out, you're just meeting someone. So these things are really important. So
Well, dating is one of those things too, and I'll leave it at this. Dating is one of those things that, excuse me, two things. Dating is very multi-level. There's a lot of dimensions to dating, and this is something that you can't cover just in an hour or two. You really have to dissect a lot of it. And the reason why you want to do that is because dating, like anything else, requires a lot of practice. And so I would say go out on dates, go out on as many dates as you can. And if anything, I always say there's never a bad date unless it ends like, there's physical harm to someone or whatever. And again, we're not hoping for that. But there's never a bad date because you can always take something from that date, right? It's like an interview. You evaluate yourself after the date. What have I done? What went well? What didn't go well? What could I've asked? What I could have not asked? Do I want to mention marriage on the first date? That's, to me, that's an absolute no. That's a turn off right there, right?
I
Um,
keep
yeah,
talking. There's something I want to get that I
yeah,
want to.
sure. So those are the kind of things that, excuse me, I would always want to practice, which is dating. Um, how you should dress, how you should talk, things like that. And hopefully, everyone will get good enough where you would be able to, when it comes time to meet that person, be somewhat of an expert at it.
All right. So thank you so much. Like I
Thank
said,
you.
we lost Reggie.
Yeah.
Hopefully for the next time.
Yep.
So what I want to end with. So we were talking about what you said, certain things. So my friend, and I guess I feel like we were doing this before because I feel like I used to like write things down about the person's name, the age, where they were from, but my friend mentioned this, and it's in Barnes and Nobles. Again, if anybody who's watching, listening, it's called My So-Called Dating Life, and this book is pretty cool. Like anybody sees it, right? And so let me give a quick example of what's in here and what it asks. So, and it's funny because it's I noticed that this is geared more towards like online dating. We're not talking about, because these are the what it's asking. It says you both swiped right. So it says the username, their phone, their actual name, and the dating app. And then it says, okay, it says who messaged first, right? Then it's talking about first impressions, potential the potential date profile, the texting highlights, what I like about them, things to mention on a date, like what we were just talking about. And then it says it's a date. It's asking things like where we went, like the place and time. Did you like it? The date details, like the date, the duration of the date, the conversation. Was there chemistry? What I wore was my what my date wore. And then it says rate this date, right? Then it says
Mm-hmm.
the best part, the most embarrassing moment, the funniest moment, and the worst part. And then it has a post date follow up the next day. It says, how am I feeling about our date now? Do I want to go on another date? Why or why not? Have
Mm-hmm.
I talked to them today? It says, have I spilled to any of my friends? Then it says the following week, things we've talked about, stuff to remember. Are they long term? It says, are they long term material? And it says, if yes, future date ideas. And then I guess there's one more page. Hold on. And then I think it starts. Yeah. And then it says self check in. How how have I been feeling? What are my dating goals? And then it
Mm-hmm.
says my recent self-care includes, and then it says my favorite recent dating moment. What do I want to keep? Oh no, it says who do I want to keep seeing? And it says what am I looking forward to? And then it says I'll think I'll. it says either keep dating or it says take a break. So I thought
Mm,
this book was pretty cool when my friend mentioned it and told me about it, because I was like, this is like for anybody out there who's doing the whole like the dating scene, things to jot down. Again, maybe some people might not need it, but I thought when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is not a bad idea at all, you know?
that's a great idea. Absolutely.
So people should really get this. Again, if this is something that they want to keep a track of and just to have like an idea. So yes. But again, thank you so much for being on my show.
You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime.
What else did I want to Oh, so I'm gonna start doing this thing because social media starts making jokes. So I was like earrings. I don't know if anybody could see it. Be like earrings by Etsy. I have to find the name of the. I think it's called melanin something. I would have to get it so I could say it correctly next time. These glasses that people have been complimenting me on, right?
Yep.
My friend be making jokes about it, but it's just like it's different. I got it at a
Yeah.
pop up, I mean, come
That's
on,
awesome.
like I love the glasses. I these are um she's on Instagram. She's called Fashions by TJ. Let me make sure to double check that, but I've noticed people have given me compliments and want to know where I got it, so I'm letting people know now. Let me double check. Following. Yes, Fashions by TJ. If anybody, is interested to check it out. Because like I said, I've gotten many compliments about these glasses. So with that being said, again, thank you so much. Good night. I appreciate for the people who have been watching, who have still support me. I love you. Um, and I want to say until next time, like I said, I'm gonna have either one or two more episodes on this whole dating thing, but not, I mean, I feel like we talked about enough, but more stories. Hopefully I can get other people to come on because again, I want to hear different stories, things when, like I said, when it comes to men and women, and how the whole dating for us is different. I would love for somebody else to also come on. Again, like I said, you don't have to show your face. You can always change your name, keep it discreet. Um, but other than that, like I said, thank you. Good night.
Good
Uh,
night.
you can catch my show. I have it on Spotify. You can see it on YouTube. And I know there was one more. Come on now, SoundCloud. So, like I said, I'm getting there. Speak it into existence. Speak it into existence. I'll get there. I'll get there. So, again, so as I always say, life is too short. Enjoy life to the fullest. And until next time, good night.